Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. The will to survive is strong in these people. Today we're going to be looking at 10 amazing people who survived the impossible. Stay tuned for number 1. This guy must be the unluckiest person that ever lived. Or perhaps the luckiest. Honestly, it's up to you. But first, do like and subscribe to this channel and watch out what we have for you at which will surprise you. Number 1. Truman Duncan. Being hit by a train most of the time is a sure way to get yourself killed in the worst possible way. But with the perfect combination of luck and the possibility of even overturning a speeding train, can survive. In 2006, Truman Duncan was working at a train station in Cleburne, Texas when sweeping under a moving train.
Head down and take a look at the yard.
Sure am. You ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay.
The railroad car pulled Duncan 75 feet and his lower body was so flattered that it was almost cut off in the middle of the waist. Somehow the man not only stayed awake and alert, but also called 911 himself on his cell phone. Duncan implantation requires a total of 23 surgeries in 6 weeks. This calls for both legs and one of his kidneys, but he lived to tell the story. Number 2. Mauro Prosperi. Getting lost in the desert may seem like an impossible task. Many people lost in this arid desert have never been found dead or alive, but to have a lasting desire to live and to be willing to do whatever is needed. The following on our list proves that survival and loss in the desert are possible. Mauro Prosperi was looking for the prize as he decided to undoubtedly take on the toughest race of its kind. The Marathon des Sables is a 6-day race across the Sahara Desert. Unfortunately, a sandstorm will hit the race, causing Prosperi to get lost and confused in the desert. Walking now in the wrong direction, he will eventually come across a Muslim temple where he can take refuge. He ran on food and water after the first 24 hours as he was not kept by any kind of long-term survival. Number 3. Anatol Burkowski. Many people think that green jobs are dangerous. No one thinks that becoming a natural scientist can be a risky trade too. Russian physicist Anatoly Brodsky has highlighted the marvelous dangers that scientists face because of the equipment they carry with them. While I was looking at a piece of equipment that was not working properly, the Peugeot ski was hit on the head with a Silvia particle accelerator stick. While experts report that 1,000 Ras is enough to kill anyone who comes in contact with a particle of particles that hit Burkowski estimated at 200,000 Rads. Miraculously, the lightning struck his brain and damaged a small part of his brain and paralyzed the left side of his face. In fact, over time his brain began to recover from damage to new neuron pathways. Number 4. Robert Evans. Earlier in this list, we found that if you were very lucky, you would be able to survive when you were hit by a train. But what if you were hit by a train and fell off a bridge a few hours after you were hit by a car? Think of yourself as the luckiest person on the internet if all 3 of you survived, but there is one man who survived. When Robert Evans, 46, survived a car crash while riding a bicycle official at the hospital, he was released and told the man how lucky he was. Despite minor injuries, he was returned to the streets at about 3 a.m. Unfortunately, this would not be the end of Evans's visit to the hospital that day. About 4:45 a.m. that day, Evans was crossing a railway bridge when he was suddenly struck by a coal train. It sits bludgeoning 10 feet from the bridge to the river below. Surprisingly, Evans recovered from the life-threatening injury and was later released from the hospital later that day. Number 5. Greg Rasmussen. Surviving the desert is hard enough, but surviving the desert after surviving a plane crash is almost impossible. But the following entry on our list accomplished the impossible. Not only did he survive the plane crash under the harsh desert conditions, but he did so without using either of his legs. While flying over the Kalahari Desert, Greg Rasmussen found himself facing a strong wind that would eventually cause his plane to crash. Lost in the desert, Sand's crash can make his legs completely useless. A situation that could leave many people ready to quit the war, but not Rasmussen. He went into the shade of a tree to escape the evil sun while he waited for deliverance. It would be 24 hours before rescuers found the man. Number 6. Aron Ralston. Nowadays, everyone knows about Ralston's incredible story through Danny Boyle's 127 Hours. In April of 2003, Ralston was hiking alone in Utah's Blue John Canyon when a horrible accident left his arm pinned by an 800-pound boulder. Ralston spent 5 days inside the cramped slot canyon and fully believed that he would die. By the end of the 5th day, he had videotaped goodbye messages for his family and carved his name, date of birth, and estimated date of death into the wall.
My name's Erwin Ralston. My parents are Donna and Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado.
Following a hallucination in which he saw himself with a young child, Ralston did the impossible and amputated his own arm with a cheap multi-tool. It's a thrilling survival story, a brilliant showcase of both human ingenuity and perseverance. Number 7. Ludger Silbaris, known as the Paris of the Caribbean, Saint-Pierre, Martinique was decimated by the eruption of Mount Pelée in 1902. A pyroclastic flow struck at 8:02 a.m. on May 8th, destroying the entire city and leaving very few survivors. One was Ludger Silbaris. The night before the eruption, Silbaris was thrown in jail after a physical altercation. He was placed in a cell which just so happened to be the safest location in the city thanks to its stone walls, poor ventilation, and underground location. Silbaris survived the flow but was badly burned from the hot air entering through the small grate. He later toured with Barnum and Amp Bailey's circus, being touted as the man who lived through doomsday. Number 8. Vesna Vulovic. What if I told you it would be extremely difficult for you to fall from 33,000 feet and survive? You would probably say yes, but you know how to use a parachute. Then I will go on to tell you that there is no parachute, and maybe you can say I am crazy until I tell you the story of the next person on our list. Stuart Vesna Vulovic boarded a Yugoslavian Airlines flight in January 1972, but he did not know that his whole life would change. In the middle of the depot, the terrorist group planted a powerful bomb that would take the lives of all the passengers and crew on board except Vulovic. Miraculously, the captain somehow survived 33,000 feet, although understandably he was in a bad mood. He had 3 spinal cords broken in both legs and a broken skull. Miraculously, he could somehow recover fully from his miserable condition and secure a place in the Guinness Book of World Records with the ultimate fall of a parachute survivor. Number 9. Harrison O'Keene. A Nigerian chef, Harrison O'Keene, was working on a tugboat as it was stabilizing an oil tanker in the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately, the boat encountered some violent waves and capsized, sending it 100 feet to the ocean floor. While most of the crew perished in the accident, O'Keene was left alive and made his way to the engineer's office in complete darkness. The office was about 4 feet in height and contained an air pocket that allowed O'Keene to breathe. He then fashioned a makeshift buoy out of a mattress and remained in the pitch-black air pocket for over 60 hours. He was eventually rescued by a team of divers who had been sent to retrieve the bodies. Imagine their surprise. Number 10. Louis Zamperini and Amp Russell Phillips. War is hell for everyone, but these men faced a particular kind of hell. While conducting a rescue mission south of Oahu, their B-24 experienced mechanical failure and crashed into the ocean. Of the 11 people on board, only 3 survived. While aboard the life raft, the men had to contend with hunger and dehydration, shark attacks, dangerous storms, and even Japanese bombers attempting to shoot them. They subsisted on rainwater and fish. The third man, Francis McNamara, eventually died, but Zamperini and Phillips made it to the Marshall Islands after 47 days at sea. However, they were caught by the Japanese, held as prisoners of war, during which time they were frequently beaten. Against all odds, they survived, and were released once the war concluded. Which inspiring story of survival touched you the most? Let us know in the comment section down below what more videos about amazing people, but on any of the videos you see on the screen. As always, everybody, thanks you all for watching. See you next time.